Hello class. I just wanted to introduce myself. In my last video I didn't really say anything about who your instructor is going to be, but I want to let you know this week and want to begin to tell you a story in parts over the next 8 weeks. It won't unfold in this video, but it will unfold over the course of the 8 weeks. First of all, I'm Lynn Thigpen. And like you, I've been in school. I just recently finished my doctoral studies in 2016. I'm 62 years old, and so you can go to school in your 50s and still keep learning. So I know that I've had people in my classes that were older than I am. So I applaud you, whatever age you are in your studies, and completing them online, and however you might complete them, go for it. I'm on your side. I applaud you. Worked 20 years in Cambodia with the International Mission Board, and with my family, with my husband Woody, my daughter Bethany. And before the 20 years in Cambodia, we worked almost 5 years in Singapore. And Singapore was a very Western, industrial, very literate society. And then the Lord sent us all the way from Singapore. It was not really that far, from Singapore to Cambodia, and to more rural ministry, and a people that didn't really prefer to read and write. So very, very different experiences in my life. Now I'm making these videos outside because I love to be outside. I identify with rural people, and you're going to hear cars going by, you're going to hear birds, all these sorts of things, and we're going to feel right at home. But just to let you know that to begin this story, in just intercultural communications and just sharing the gospel and trying to build bridges with people who've never ever heard, there's just such a joy in telling the gospel story to people who've never heard. They don't know the end of the story, and they're hanging on your every word. It's just absolutely awesome. So I want to tell you a story about a particular family that we walked through. We were walking through, telling the gospel story week after week after week, going to their home. They come to our home. We were sharing, and in that culture in Cambodia, they're Buddhists. They're folk Buddhists, and I'll share a bit more about that later. So they don't understand anything about creation. That's not on their radar. So when we share the gospel, we start all the way from the beginning with, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and we have to explain all that, working through as a part of that gospel communication. But we had shared with this family week after week, going chronologically through God's story, the grand narrative, sea to sea, creation to Christ. And so we get to a certain point. We've shared through some of the Old Testament stories into the New Testament stories. And my friend, and I'll call him Samnang, that is the word for lucky in the Cambodian language. That was not his name. I'll protect his identity. But I can call him Lucky or Samnang. And one day he said to us, he said, now, if I follow Jesus, do I have to get rid of my, and he said this word in Khmer, my Kru Gamnait. So I'm sitting there going, Kru Gamnait, Kru Gamnait. Kru means teacher. Gamnait means birth. So I'm sitting there going, okay, this is a prime example of intercultural communications. I can understand the words birth, teacher. I'm thinking person. Who is the person who is interfering with your coming to faith? Who could that be? So we're having this conversation, and he's seeing that this idiot foreigner does not understand what a Krugam night is, so I'm going to have mercy on her. So he goes into his one-room dwelling with a dirt floor. He goes to the apex of the roof where there's an altar. And he gets something, he brings it down, he brings it outside where we were sitting, and sets it down. And I'll have to show you a picture later. I don't have a picture on my phone here. It looks basically like paper string, red paper, brown string that you would wrap a package in to mail it. Some white paper. The bottom is a coconut, the bottom of a coconut shell. And honestly, talk about intercultural communication and engagement. It is all I can do to say, well, just throw that thing in the fire and follow Jesus. That's all you got to do. I don't do that. I resist the urge, and I'm thinking, okay, what is this thing? And by then I had lived in the country for a decade and a half, and I had never noticed this thing, didn't know what it was, and I'm just puzzled, and I'm thinking, how could this thing keep you from Jesus? All the wonderful stories we've told you, how could it keep you from Jesus? And all the while we're talking about this object that we have between us, I am using the personal pronouns it. To me, it's a thing. He is using personal pronouns. We only had one in Khmer, he, she, for this thing that's in front of me. And I am thinking, okay, this thing is a person. See, I'm ignorant. I'm totally ignorant of his worldview, even though I've been in the country for a long time at that point. I am totally ignorant of his worldview. And we are not communicating. So I set off to explore what a Krughamite was before I gave him an answer. I assumed probably, yes, you do have to get rid of this thing, but I don't understand all the repercussions of what the thing is. So there starts the beginning of my exploration of this certain aspect of his life that differs greatly from mine. And that is the first part of the story I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to continue it throughout this course. So I'm going to leave you hanging there as a good storyteller, good soap opera here, and we'll finish it later. God bless you this week as you study and learn more about intercultural communication and engagement.